What if I told you that the man who made kickboxing global was a Kyokushin outcast? He was knocked out in Thailand, betrayed by his own system, and erased from the history books. But he planted the seeds for Dutch kickboxing, trained champions who conquered Rajadamnern and walked away from Mas Oyama at the peak of Kyokushin's rise. This is not a story of tradition. This is a story of rebellion. Kenji Kurosaki, the man who turned pain into progress. Born on March 15, 1930, in Tochigi Prefecture, Kurosaki began his martial arts journey under Gogen Yamaguchi, training in Goju-Ryu karate in the Asakusa Dojo. There, he crossed paths with a rising powerhouse, Mas Oyama. When Oyama left to form his own style, Kurosaki followed. In the early 1950s, he became one of the first instructors in the Oyama Dojo, alongside Ishibashi and Yasuda, teaching a brutal, bare-knuckle style that would later become Kyokushin. By 1958, he opened the Narimasu branch, the first Kyokushin branch dojo outside of Oyama's main headquarters. He wasn't just teaching karate, he was helping build a movement. In 1964, the Oyama dojo was challenged by promoter Osamu Noguchi to prove Kyokushin's power against Muay Thai. Oyama sent Kurosaki, Akio Fujihira, and Tadashi Nakamura to Thailand. The fight would take place at Lumpinee Stadium, the heart of Thai fighting. Kurosaki wasn't supposed to fight, but when the original fighter dropped out, he stepped in himself. With only weeks of preparation and no prior experience with gloves or elbows, he entered the ring. The result? He was knocked out by an elbow, not just physically, but mentally. Kurosaki saw firsthand that traditional karate was missing something. Real combat required adaptation, and Kyokushin wasn't ready. That elbow strike in Thailand didn't just knock him out, it knocked something loose inside him. For the first time in his life, Kenji Kurosaki doubted his system. He had walked into Lumpinee Stadium believing that karate, his karate, was unstoppable. But in less than 3 minutes, he was bleeding, dazed, and flat on the canvas. Not because he lacked heart, but because he lacked tools. He had no answer for the clinch, no defense against elbows, and no rhythm for low kicks. It wasn't just defeat, it was exposure. In the silence that followed, after the cheers faded and the plane brought him back to Japan, Kurosaki began asking dangerous questions. What else have we ignored? Are we teaching combat or choreography? He didn't blame Kyokushin, but he could no longer pretend it was complete. That loss became a scar and a seed that would grow into something new, something brutal, something real. Despite the setback in Thailand, Kurosaki pressed forward. In 1965, he traveled to Hawaii, and by 1966, he spent nearly a year in Holland with John Blooming, spreading Kyokushin across Europe. There, he taught future legends like Loke Hollander and John Kallenbach, laying the foundations of European full-contact karate. He helped open dojos, led demonstrations, and inspired a new generation of fighters. But despite the warm reception abroad, the taste of that elbow in Bangkok never left his mouth. Something inside him had changed. He had seen too much, and he could no longer follow Oyama blindly. In 1969, Kurosaki did the unthinkable. He left Kyokushin. Tired of ideological restrictions, he founded his own gym, Mejiro Gym, named after the Tokyo district. Here, karate met gloves, kicks met knees, and Japan's version of kickboxing was born. Under Kurosaki, Mejiro Gym became a powerhouse, blending karate, Muay Thai, and Western boxing into a new fighting system. As Mejiro Gym grew, its influence spread. In the early 70s, a young Dutch student named John Plaas trained under Kurosaki and brought his system back to Holland. There, it evolved into Dutch kickboxing, the aggressive, forward-pressing style that would dominate K1 for decades. Fighters like Rob Kamen, Ernesto Hoost, and Peter Aerts are all descendants of Kurosaki's teachings. Even Lucian Carbon, one of the most respected Dutch coaches, came through this lineage. Kurosaki never claimed credit, but without him, Dutch kickboxing would not exist. Among Kurosaki's top students was a quiet killer, Toshio Fujiwara. Lean, unassuming, and deadly precise, Fujiwara wasn't loud. He didn't boast, he didn't pose. But in the ring, he moved like a ghost with iron fists. He trained under Kurosaki at Mejiro Gym, absorbing not just technique, but philosophy. Where others saw style, Fujiwara saw structure. Where others saw tradition, he saw tools. Kurosaki didn't just teach him how to fight, he taught him how to adapt. By the late 1970s, the world of full-contact fighting was shifting. Karate was growing. Kickboxing was rising. But Muay Thai still reigned supreme, especially in Thailand, the homeland of knees, elbows, and rhythm. No foreigner had ever stepped into Rajadamnern Stadium and walked away with a title. None. But in 1978, that changed. Toshio Fujiwara entered the ring not as a karateka, not as a kickboxer, but as the embodiment of Kurosaki's experiment, a hybrid fighter, a thinking warrior, a bridge between East and West. The Thai crowd didn't take him seriously. A Japanese fighter in their temple? They expected tradition. They got precision. Fujiwara didn't win with power. He won with angles. He slipped, countered, chopped legs, controlled distance. Round by round, the silence in the stadium grew louder. And when the final bell rang, history changed. Toshio Fujiwara became the first non-Thai ever to win a Rajadamnern title. A feat no Westerner, no karate fighter, no outsider had ever achieved. But behind that win stood Kenji Kurosaki. It wasn't just Fujiwara's hands that had landed those strikes. It was Kurosaki's vision, his stubbornness, his exile. This wasn't just a championship. It was a revolution. Proof that the hybrid worked. Proof that full contact had evolved, and that the man who had once been knocked out in Thailand had now conquered it through his student. In his later years, Kurosaki continued teaching through the Kurosaki Dojo and authored books like Samurai e no Dengon and Jiko Boe no Hijutsu. He trained athletes outside of martial arts, cyclists, bodybuilders, and more, with a focus on strength and endurance. His philosophy blended discipline, realism, and constant evolution. But in the official Kyokushin history books, his name is barely mentioned. Why? Because he walked away. Because he dared to ask, what if karate could be more? Kenji Kurosaki was many things: a rebel, a teacher, a visionary. He lost fights, he lost status, he lost favor with Mas Oyama, but he never lost sight of the truth, that martial arts must evolve or die. His story reminds us that sometimes the greatest loyalty is to reality, not to tradition. So next time you see a Dutch kickboxer land a left hook low kick combo, remember the man who made it all possible, Kenji Kurosaki, the forgotten architect of full contact. If you believe stories like this deserve to be remembered, subscribe to the channel and join the mission. Support the project on Patreon, early access, exclusive chapters, and behind-the-scenes material. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok for shorts, breakdowns, and more. And if you're ready to dive even deeper, check out the upcoming book, The Way of the Empty Hand, a chronicle of karate's lost masters and hidden history. This is Archangel Dojo, where the old ways still echo and the forgotten voices speak again.